Good morning, I'm WaywornWyrm, and welcome to my channel. And welcome back to the Hoard of the Dragon Queen, Episode 11, The Saving of Leosin. The rest of the day went by agonizingly slowly. Flintfinder, Morn, and Mara were roped into doing manual labor during different parts of the day. One of them got to dig ditches for latrine. Mara was roped into standing guard at one of the guard towers for a couple of hours. And Morn had to help keep the peace in the kobold camp. The group knew that a rescue attempt wouldn't work during the day, and their only hope was a night rescue. Making a plan was a bit premature, as they realized that any plan they would make would have to change depending on things like how many guards were posted to watch Leosin at night. The only thing they were sure of was this first night would be the best chance they would have to save him. Things had yet to settle at the camp. There were still supposed to be more people in. And every day that'd be less and less true. Not to mention, Leosin would come closer and closer to death every day that they tarried. Finally, it was dark enough, and the coast seemed clear. It took all of them by surprise that Leosin was unguarded by the time the camp was quieting down for the night. There were a few brawls here and there, and that seemed to actually only help them, as it drew the attention of the few guards that were patrolling this upper section of the camp away toward the brawls rather than toward Leosin. Flintfinder quietly crept up to Leosin, pulling out his short sword. "Shh, I'm Flintfinder. I was sent by Nassim. We are going to get you out of here," he said quietly. Leosin looked up at him, the fatigue writ large on his features. It took a moment or two for him to focus and comprehend everything that this Goliath had just told him. As realization dawned on him, his eyes went wide, and he shook his head. "No, don't take me. Not now. I'm so close. A couple more days, and I'll have learned everything." Flintfinder looked down at him with pity. "Look at you. You won't last a couple more days. I do not doubt your mental facilities and that they won't break under the strain. But your body will. It is already breaking." Flintfinder gently grabbed one of the arms that was tied to the large X holding Leosin up, and cut the rope that had lashed the hand there. He gently placed the arm at Leosin's side before beginning to cut his legs free. Leosin tried to struggle against his rescuer, but the Goliath was right. There was not much fight left in his body. As Flintfinder finished cutting Leosin down and draped him over his shoulder, they heard a voice challenge them. "Halt! What are you doing?" Well, that took long enough. Flintfinder growled as he sheathed his short sword and pulled out his long sword. 8 guardsmen began closing in on the pair as the rest of the party rushed to their aid. Mara acted first, firing a bolt from her crossbow that thudded into the shield of one of the guards. Her aim was not the best as she was running to meet up with Flintfinder, who was also beginning to move. But then again, she did fire a crossbow at full sprint and hit a body. Morn went next, pointing a finger at a guard as a mote of blue flashed from his finger and hoarfrost coated part of the guard as everyone was now running. Quora flicked a knife formed out of ice at a small cluster of guards and watched as it flew right in front of the face of one of them, before shattering against the cliff face well behind them. Garrett was the first of the party to reach some of the guards, as he set himself up to slow the ones behind Flintfinder down. He figured that the battle was about to become a running battle as they fled the camp. The first strike hit a guard, snaking through a small hole in his chain shirt. Garrett followed it up with a headbutt that clapped the guard's mouth shut so hard, blood appeared at the sides of his lips as he began to fall back. Garrett used the momentum from the falling guard to pivot himself up and deliver a roundhouse kick to the side of another guard's head. The guard Garrett had kicked stabbed at him with her spear, but he effortlessly moved out of the way of the blow. The guard that Morn had shot with the frost also attempted to stab Garrett. This time, Garrett pushed the spear out of the way rather than dodging. Two of the guards attempted to intercept the party before they could join Flintfinder, and found themselves up against Tessa Lee. She parried one of their spear thrusts, and the other glanced off of her armor. The remaining 3 guards attempted to stop Flintfinder. All 3 of their spears failed to find their target, however, as he fought them off with his long sword. Tess sliced at one of the guards in front of her with her greatsword. By the time she had finished her strike, there was only 1 guard in front of her. Flintfinder struck at one of the guards in front of him, but failed to connect. Mara put her crossbow back and pulled out her mace to strike at the guard in front of Tess to clear the way for the group. The guard deflected the blow with their shield. Morn ran around the small knot that was forming with Tess, the guard, and Mara. He jumped in front of Flintfinder and placed his thumbs together, fingers spread wide as a fan of flames sprouted from his hands. 2 of the guards were incinerated on the spot, while the 3rd jumped to the side and was able to dodge most of the flames. Before that guard could recover from the flames he had just dodged, a small burst of flame from Quora hit him, lighting him up like a funeral pyre. Garrett stabbed the woman he had kicked and sent her to his death. He then punched hard into the kidney of the guard that was left in front of him, which put them unmoving on the ground. The last remaining guard gritted their teeth. "You cannot get away with the Elp. Praise Tiamat's glory!" they shouted before thrusting at Tess, who swung at the spear as the thrust came in and sliced the head clean off. Then, with her backstroke, she finished off that guard. The party formed up around Flintfinder, Tess in front, with Morn and Mara slightly behind her. Garrett and Quora watched behind them. Somehow, they managed to get through the upper camp without much trouble after that. Anyone who was aware of them and what they were doing must have temporarily lost their nerve. As they descended into the kobold camp, Morn said, "Wait a second," before shooting off several flame bursts at random tents. "Let's cause chaos and confusion." Quora, realizing his plan, nodded and started shooting off several of her own. As the kobold camp started lighting up with uncontrolled fires, all hell broke loose, as some kobolds tried to fight the spreading flames, while others looked to blame someone and destroy those who were responsible. However, no one wanted to mess with the well-armed and armored group that made their way through the camp. Garrett looked at Leosin as they made their way towards the edge of the camp. "Leosin, can you step like the wind for a little while after we leave the camp? We will need to run." Leosin thought for a moment before composing himself and shrugging off the help of Flintfinder. "Yes, I believe I can. For a short time." "Good. Quora, when we get close, call a fog cloud to appear around the guard tower, and when we reach the end of the camp, run like the dogs of hell are nipping at our heels." The guards in the tower were struck by indecision as they saw the chaos start to unfold in the kobold camp. The main problem was that help they could count on was on the far side of the camp. One of them wanted to risk it, while the other was all for pulling the ladder up into the tower and just waiting out the fire and fighting. They were still arguing when they realized a thick cloud bank was rolling in around their tower. As they prepared their spears and began to quickly pull up the ladder, all arguing ceasing. They were completely unaware of the group that sprinted past them into the darkness beyond the camp. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the next episode of the Monster Manual Backward, where I talk about the bears of Appendix A.